The following video is not meant for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello, this is to my friends and subscribers. This is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review. And today we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class Armada Red Alert. So, Red Alert, when the time came for Hasbro to do an English dub of the Transformers Micron Legend cartoon that Takara Tomy had released in Japan the previous year. During the year 2002 is when Takara Tomy had released the Micron Legends series in Japan. Might have been 2001, but yeah, it was 2001. I apologize, but anyways, the following year in 2002, when Hasbro decided to release the Micron Legends cartoon in the United States under the new title of Transformers Armada. One of the first three Autobot Transformers characters who was introduced at the start of the cartoon series was an Autobot medic who transformed into an Army Jeep type ambulance. And at the time, Hasbro was going to lose a registered trademark on the Transformers character named Red Alert, and so Hasbro decided, even though the character took a lot of inspiration when Takara Tomy originally created him, in that he was based loosely on Generation 1 Ratchet, Hasbro decided to use the name Red Alert for this guy, and Red Alert ended up being the Autobot medic in the Transformers Armada cartoon series. Red Alert ended up being one of three Autobots who arrived on planet Earth at the start of the Transformers Armada cartoon, and as a result, Red Alert enjoyed quite a bit more screen time than most of the Autobot characters who would appear after and later on in the Transformers Armada cartoon show. Red Alert, the other Autobots who traveled to Earth with him to find the Minicons, who had fled Cybertron eons in the past, and then were reactivated on planet Earth. The other Autobots who were there with Red Alert to find the Minicons were Hotshot, the young Autobot Rookie, and of course the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. They traveled to Earth battling against Megatron and three of his most powerful Decepticon lieutenants, Starscream, Demolisher, and Cyclonus. And as the Transformers Armada cartoon show progressed, more Autobots and Decepticons arrived on planet Earth, and slowly but surely, starting with the Transformers Legacy trilogy, and then continuing here in the Age of the Primes line, we have been getting one character at a time, sometimes two characters at a time, the characters from the Transformers Armada series. And one thing I've been enjoying with the Transformers Armada action figures is that not all of them, but most of them have been brand new molds, and the designs for the Transformers characters from Transformers Armada, they were unique enough that most of them, while loosely being based off of some Transformers characters who had appeared in the Transformers franchise in the past before Armada was launched in 2002, most of them had unique designs where, as far as being able to be repainted and retooled, and being sharing body designs with other Transformers characters, most of the characters from Transformers Armada can't be repainted from existing characters from Generation 1. They can be repainted into other characters, which is what we've gotten with Armada Red Alert here. Recently, in the Age of the Primes line, Red Alert has been repainted and retooled into an obscure Transformers character called Flatline, which I do have. I'll get around to reviewing Flatline, hopefully with one of my good friends and fellow Transformers fans, Ultra Megatron Onus, who I join on his live streams, even on the weekends sometimes. But the point I'm trying to get is that the unique body designs of the characters from Transformers Armada, when the time has come in the past to release modern-day Generation/Classics Chug-style action figures of the characters from Transformers Armada, the reason why it took so long for Hasbro and Takara Tomy to release most action figures of them was because the unique body designs of them meant that proper Chug-style action figures of these characters, it would dictate Hasbro and Takara Tomy to please fans and collectors going the extra mile in designing brand new molds for these characters, which most of them we've gotten. The one character from Armada who has been given a modern Chug-style action figure, which was not a new mold, was Armada Wheeljack, who I reviewed recently on my channel. Wheeljack was based off of Generation 1 Sideswipe, so Hasbro and Takara Tomy, the designers, figured, rather than designing a brand new action figure for the Armada version of Wheeljack, since he was based off of Generation 1 Sideswipe, they just took the Siege Sideswipe mold and once again used it for Armada Wheeljack. But most of the characters from Armada have been given brand new molds. Before the Legacy trilogy and now the Age of the Primes, sublines of Transformers Generations, I believe the only characters from Transformers Armada who got Chug-style action figures were Hotshot, who got a action figure in the Transformers Universe Classics 2.0 line back in 2008, and then the Armada version of Thrust was sold in a boxed set exclusively by Takara Tomy in Japan in the Transformers Unite Warriors line as part of Galvatronus, or I forgot what name Takara Tomy gave that combiner, but yeah, the Armada version of Thrust was, I believe, a repaint of Combiner Wars Air Raid. But with the exception of those versions of Hotshot and Thrust, most of the characters from Transformers Armada, we didn't start to get modern-day Chug-style action figures of them until the Legacy trilogy. I think it might have started with the Legacy Evolution line. But with the release of Red Alert here, there are 3 Autobots from Transformers Armada who've been given modern Chug-style action figures. Before Red Alert, we appropriately got Optimus Prime and Hotshot, both in the Legacy Evolution line, and so with the release of Red Alert, the trio of Autobots who first appeared and started off the Transformers Armada cartoon show have now been given modern action figures. Fans of Transformers Armada have been questioning which Autobot characters would be the next ones to join Optimus Prime, Hotshot, and Red Alert in being given modern Chug-style action figures here. Most Transformers Armada fans, myself included, Transformers Armada holds a special place in my heart since it was the first ever Transformers cartoon series I watched and introduced me to the Transformers franchise, and so hard time and long time and lifetime Transformers fans of the Armada Transformers series hope that eventually the day will come, someday sooner rather than later, when we have modern Chug-style figures of all the characters from Transformers Armada. There have been some third-party attempts on some of the characters, such as Jetfire and Overload, who were the 2 Autobots who could combine with the Armada version of Optimus Prime. I don't know if any of the other Autobots from Transformers Armada, if they've been given modern style action figures, either by a third-party company or even fourth-party knockoffs. There ended up being 9 Autobots who appeared in the Transformers Armada cartoon show. There was Optimus Prime, Hotshot, Red Alert, Smokescreen, Scavenger, Blur, Jetfire, Sideswipe, and Overload. There were technically 10 Autobots if you include Hoist, who is just Smokescreen upgraded with a new body design and a name change with his new body design. So if you count Hoist and Smokescreen as separate characters in Transformers Armada, which they were actually the same character, then there were 10 Autobots who appeared in the Armada cartoon series. So with the release of Red Alert, even though it doesn't divide evenly, we technically have a third of the Autobot characters from Transformers Armada who've been given modern Chug-style action figures. If you count third-party, Jetfire and Overload technically got modern figures from a third-party company. I can't remember which one it is, but if you don't count third-party, then we only got 3 of the 10 Autobots from Armada in the overall Generations line being given Chug-style figures. On the Decepticon side, there were, I believe, 8 Decepticons who appeared in Transformers Armada. Megatron, Starscream, Cyclonus, Demolisher, Sideways, Thrust, Tidal Wave, Wheeljack, and if you want to get technical again, like Smokescreen and Hoist, technically there were... The 9th Decepticon was Galvatron. And so counting Galvatron and Megatron separately, of the 9 Decepticons who appeared in the Armada cartoon show, there are... we've gotten Chug-style action figures, 5 of them. We've gotten Megatron, Galvatron, Starscream, Wheeljack, and Tidal Wave, and it's been confirmed that Sideways will be released later in the year 2026, which is the year at the time I'm recording this video. So once Sideways exist, he'll be the 6th Decepticon from the Armada series to be given a Chug-style action figure. No word yet. Just like the other Autobots who have not been given Chug-style figures in the Generations line, there's no word yet on if we're getting any of the other Armada Decepticons in the Age of the Primes line. like we got during Legacy and Age of the Primes so far. But I personally hope that if the next Transformers characters from Armada that get released, I hope the next ones will be Demolisher and Cyclonus, so we can complete the quartet of the first Decepticons who arrived at this beginning of the Transformers Armada cartoon show and started it off. The fact that we got Wheeljack, Sideways, and Tidal Wave, the Decepticons who appeared later in the Armada cartoon series before the ones who appeared first in the series, in the overall Generations line, that amuses me as much as it confuses me as to why Hasbro and Takara Tomy didn't release truck-style action figures of the Transformers Armada characters in chronological order of when they arrived. Regardless of that, let's bring focus back here to Red Alert. So, yeah, he is an entirely brand new mold. One last thing I will say is that in the CGI product photo of Red Alert's robot mode when it was first revealed on Amazon.com, the CGI render incorrectly showed Red Alert having 2 hands. The Armada version of Red Alert, from the get-go, he has always had just one hand, which is his right side hand. And Armada Red Alert never had a left hand at the end of his left arm. He instead had a tool that shoot lasers, could use as a blowtorch. It was basically a multi-purpose tool. And as I said at the start of the review a moment ago, Armada Red Alert is loosely based off of Generation 1 Ratchet. He's actually an amalgamation of 2 Generation 1 Transformers characters. He's based on Generation 1 Ratchet and also Transformers Generation 1 Trailbreaker. And having just one hand is a reference to Red Alert having just one hand. It's a reference to Generation 1 Trailbreaker having just one hand. So if anyone wondered what it would look like if Trailbreaker and Ratchet, if there was a Transformers character that was a mashup of both of their vehicle modes, Trailbreaker's alt mode of a pickup truck and Ratchet's alt mode of an ambulance, there is a Transformers character that does exist that looks just like that, and it's Armada Red Alert, since his alt mode is a off-road type ambulance vehicle. And yeah, overall, I really enjoy having this action figure of Red Alert in my Transformers collection. I started collecting I was introduced to Transformers during Armada, as I said a moment ago, and I technically got a mold of Armada Red Alert when I was collecting the Armada line. I got the Power Links version of Red Alert, which is a recolor of him, which is mostly orange and light orange and white. I had instead of white and blue. And long story short, during the last 10 or so episodes of the Transformers Armada cartoon show, which is 52 episodes long, in episode 43, so technically it's the last 9 episodes of the series, the character of Nemesis Prime fought a group of Autobots and Decepticons, 5 total, 2 Autobots and 2 Decepticons, and the Transformers who fought Nemesis Prime were severely damaged. They came close to dying, but didn't actually. When they were restored to, or brought back from the brink of death, they were given new paint jobs, and that was a theme that Takara Tomy did, and Hasbro continued with the first 3 Transformers cartoons shows that were released in the 21st century: Car, Robots, Armada, and Energon. In each of those 3 series, there was a group of Transformers who had been introduced at the start of the series where they got involved in a serious fight. They were severely damaged, and when they were brought back from dying, they were given brand new paint jobs, and one of the characters who was involved in all those fights every time was Megatron. And when he was given his new paint job, he adorned the moniker of Galvatron to show that he had upgraded, and so and the reason why I say it was a clever marketing strategy on Takara Tomy's part is because just like the characters in the cartoon show were given new paint jobs, the action figures of them had a second version based off of the second paint job they got in the last few episodes of the cartoon series. So Transformers fans and collectors who wanted to use their action figures to reenact every single episode of the cartoon show they were watching. If they wanted to accurately reenact the episodes where the characters almost died and came back to life with brand new paint jobs, they would have to go out and buy the second version of these molds and have 2 copies of the same action figure with different paint jobs in order to mimic with their action figures the scene when the character got a brand new paint job. So that's why I say it was a clever marketing strategy on Takara Tomi's part, because it was an incentive to get fans and collectors the same action figure twice with a different paint job to mimic the events in the cartoon series. But for those like me who missed out on the first waves of the line, because I didn't start buying and collecting the Transformers Armada action figures until January of 2003. That was the month and year I started to buy and collect the Transformers Armada action figures, and by that time I believe the third wave of Transformers Armada had already been out on the shelves for a while, and Wave 4 was being released, which was the final wave of Transformers Armada. And so I missed out on the original version of Armada Red Alert, but I was able to find the Power Links version, and so the repainted figures, it was a second chance at getting the molds of the action figures of the Transformers characters that were released in the first wave. So if you missed out on that, then you got a chance to at least get the mold by buying the repaint, because at the time in the early 2000s, it's not like today where some action figures get a re-release or get a second chance at being released again if the figures were proved to be really hard and rare to find the first time they got out. Hasbro at the time didn't believe in reissuing or re-releasing action figures of more recent Transformers characters, because one of the reasons why that it was a long time before Hasbro started to do that is because the first time they re-released Transformers action figures that had been on the shelves years prior was when the G1 reissues and the G1 commemorative series action figures were released, which is around the time that Armada was out on the shelves. And the G1 commemorative series and reissue figures didn't sell as well as Hasbro had hoped, and so that's why Hasbro deviated from doing re-releases for a long time. I personally think it is. I don't know if that's exactly why, so please don't quote me on that, but the point I'm trying to make is that Hasbro failed to realize that the Generation 1 action figures, by the time the Armada action figures were out into the 2000s, we had already gotten action figures from the Beast Wars series and the Beast era, and also car robots right before Armada. And so the more modern Transformers action figures with their more articulated joints and their ability to have a lot more action poses than a majority of the Transformers action figures from Transformers Generation 1, transforming a robot to vehicle action figure technology had advanced so much from the 1980s throughout the 1990s that by the early 2000s the action figures from the 1980s were already obsolete compared to the action figures in the 2000s, and so that's why Hasbro stayed off re-releases for such a long time. But bringing focus once again back to Red Alert, here we got some artwork of both his robot mode and his vehicle mode. I kind of wish they would have done a CGI render of his appearance more from the Transformers Armada cartoon show, but I can kind of see why they had to do it here for his action figure to avoid fans and collectors from accusing them of doing false advertising. But yeah, there's same artwork of Red Alert here on the side of his box. So on this side of the box, you've got a section of the poster image for the Age of the Primes line, where you've got some of the members of the Primes. Red Alert has Prima, Vector Prime, and Alpha Trion here on his box. As of this video's recording, I believe it was today when I'm recording this video. It's January 31st of 2026. So, wow, I can't believe the month of January of 2026 is over, and the year is 2026 is 1/12 over already. But the last of the 2 of the 3 final members of the 13 Primes to be given action figures have been product images of them have come out. So we now have images of what Nexus Prime and Liege Maximo look like. So the last Prime in the Age of the Primes line to officially be revealed is Vector Prime, who is going to be a repaint, and it's unknown if he's going to have any retooled parts from the Legacy version of Vector Prime that we got in the Legacy trilogy, which itself was a retool of Legacy G-Axis. So once Vector Prime, Liege Maximo, and Nexus Prime are released, then we'll have action figures of all 13 of the G113 original primes. So here's Armada Red Alert in his robot mode and his alt mode of an ambulance. He transforms back and forth between both modes in 22 steps. And just like his original Armada action figure, he has one of the gimmicks where his main blaster weapon is actually stored on the back of his robot mode, which is the roof of his alt mode of an ambulance, and it flips out and becomes a cannon. And you can flip out and he can have a cannon on his roof. And that was the aesthetic that the designers at Hasbro and Takara Tomy went with when designing the characters from Transformers Armada. They were basically designed to be vehicles that had weapons already installed on them, regardless of what type of vehicle they transformed into. So all the action figures from the Transformers Armada line, most of them are not robots in disguise. They don't look like actual real-life models of vehicles that actually exist. They're highly stylized with additional weapons that vehicles wouldn't normally have, including the characters who turn into cars such as Hotshot. And because of that, aesthetically, the characters from Transformers Armada, they look like clean-cut, brand newly manufactured versions of vehicles that you would find from the Mad Max video game series. So they almost look like post-apocalyptic vehicles right before the apocalypse takes place. They're vehicles that are armed for warfare. And so that was the design that for the characters of Armada that Takara Tomy went with. The original Armada Red Alert action figure, because the gimmick of the mini-cons has been removed on the new Chug-style action figures, the flip-out cannon and the interchangeable weapons that can attach to the left side wrist of Red Alert when he's in his robot mode, those are the only gimmicks that retain here. The cannon itself, its missile, the reason why the missile has two heads is that it was originally opened up and it was a pinching claw-type missile that would lock on to any enemy that was trying to attack Red Alert. I believe the spring-loaded gimmick has been removed, and the claw, I don't think it even opens up. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I believe all the spring-loaded gimmicks have been removed. Another gimmick Red Alert possessed that his new Age of the Primes figure does not is that the front bumper section of his ambulance mode, which is his robot mode chest, it would pry open in half, and it would open up similar to how Optimus Prime's chest opens up to reveal the Matrix of Leadership. Only instead of the Matrix of Leadership, Red Alert had a energy disc that he could launch out and use to attack any Decepticon enemies. So yeah, Red Alert was a doctor who was armed for battle, and if you think that just because he's a medical officer that he's a pushover, that is the worst mistake you could ever make when battling Armada Red Alert, because if you let your guard down while battling him, you will regret it, because not only does he have weapons to help him fight, but he has the medical knowledge of the weaknesses of how Transformers' bodies are, so yeah, that's, he's actually a very dangerous opponent in that regard, and I can see in that respect why Optimus Prime chose Red Alert along with Hotshot to be the two Autobots to accompany him on planet Earth, because Optimus Prime originally believed that Hotshot and Red Alert had the weapons and the fighting skills necessary to help him defeat Megatron and the Decepticons in battle when they fought them. So yeah, the worst mistake you could ever make is underestimating the Armada version of Red Alert. One last thing I will say is that one thing that the Red Alert's original Transformers Armada action figure that was released back in 2002 is infamous for is that it was the last Transformers action figure to actually have a red cross painted on the sides of his alt mode. It's kind of hard for my camera to show it. It's kind of hard to show it here with my camera because my camera blurs images out. But in place of the actual red cross that Red Alert's original Armada action figure had, his Age of the Primes action figure has instead a red cross has a six-sided cross with an Autobot logo inside of it, similar to the Blue Cross health insurance plans that people in the United States have. Only it has an Autobot logo inside of it. It's a similar to the style of Red Cross logo that has the Autobot symbol inside of it, which some modern action figures of Ratchet have been given. And so the Red Cross actually sued Hasbro over a red cross actually being used on Armada Red Alerts, or its alternate mode. And so if if by some miracle someday Hasbro were to ever re-release or re-release the original Armada Transformers action figures, I highly doubt that the original Armada Red Alert action figure would have the red cross that it originally had in 2002. I'm sure they would put an Autobot logo inside to avoid another lawsuit with the American Red Cross. So it's kind of a shame that the American Red Cross, instead of considering it free publicity to their association, they considered it instead money loss on a trademark they possessed for being the only people to have the right to print a red cross. And use that out in the general public. But anyways, that's all the information and background about Red Alert and the history behind him and the significance of him in the entirety of the Transformers franchise. And I've babbled on much longer than I wanted to, so without further delay, let's hurry up and get this guy out of his box and take a close look at him in his robot mode. Alright, and so before we look at Red Alert himself, here are his accessory pieces. There's 4 in total. You've got the cannon weapon, which forms a section which forms 1/3 of Red Alert's back in robot mode and 1/3 of the roof of his alt mode of an ambulance. And the original action figure, the cannon, was like this as well, where one of the sirens for the light bar of the ambulance mode is on the top. You've got the and then another accessory piece is the claw missile. On the original Armada Red Alert action figure, it was a spring-loaded missile. There was a button here, right by the light bar siren, where when you pushed it, the missile would fire out. The missile originally went the entire length of here, since it was a powerful spring that held it in place. Just like I was wrong when I said that it doesn't open up. The claw weapon, it does kind of I was right. It doesn't open up. It originally had a hinge here where the lower jaw of the claw would open up and it would close. It happened manually, but if you fired it at the right angle and stuff, it would open up on its own. It has a little knob right there carved on the side that makes it look like it's spring-loaded but if you look on the bottom, it's not. So don't try and pry it open, otherwise you will break it and snap it off. So that's a clever optical illusion, making it look like the original claw missile while not actually being functional. And then the final 2 accessory pieces that Red Alert comes with are these 2 attachments that you attach at the end of his wrist on his left side arm in robot mode. This one, which I just dropped to the floor, this one attachment, has a 3mm port here on the side of it for blast effects, and then it's got 3 barrels on the end of it. And then the other one, which is the single barrel wrist mount, which is the one used on his box art. This is the one that Red Alert was always shown having attached to his wrist in the Armada cartoon show. And on his original Armada action figure, the Power Links figure, that's the one I always attached at the end of his wrist when I display him in robot mode. And so, since I just attached it to his wrist, here is Age of the Primes, Armada, Red Alert, out of the box, transformed into his robot mode. He does mistransform slightly a bit. The heel spurs on the bottom of his feet are not flipped out, so be mindful of flipping them out when you transform him. And then the arms you do have to fold out all the way. But yeah, I really enjoy how Red Alert turned out overall. And just like his original Armada action figure, there's some the kibble of his vehicle mode here on the back. There's slots here where you can put the accessory piece you don't want attached to Red Alert's wrist, or if you don't want either of them attached to his wrist, you can put both of them and store them here on the inside flaps of the kibble that hangs off the legs of his robot mode. On Red Alert's original Armada action figure, this side panel on his left side leg, it would flip out, rotate, and then a scope would come up, and then that would be like a battle platform that Minicons could use to help Red Alert fight the Decepticons. And then for Red Alert's main cannon, you can either have him hold it in his hand and like a laser gun, or you can, flipping this panel section around, you can plug it in right here, and this is the port it attaches to. When Red Alert's not holding it in his hand, you can have it here, and you can have Red Alert have a shoulder-mounted cannon like so many Generation 1 Transformers characters, or if you don't even want it on it deployed, you can flip it around, fold it here, and then it fills in, and it actually becomes a part of Red Alert's back when he's in his robot mode, which is also his the roof of his robot mode for when he's in ambulance. The claw missile, there was just enough room on the original Armada Red Alert action figure that it could store there under the roof, still attached inside, so you didn't have to remove the missile from the cannon in order to transform it into Red Alert's backpack. You do unfortunately have to remove it here when you have Red Alert transformed into his robot mode. There is a storage spot for the missile, but I forgot where it was off the top of my head. I'll have to look for it in the instruction sheet in just a moment. But yeah, overall, I really enjoy how Red Alert turned out, and I love that they at least kept the gimmick of having the flip-out laser cannon that comes out of his back for when he's in his robot mode. I enjoy that they kept that there. One thing that to know about the original Armada Red Alert, his kibble on the kibble of his vehicle mode on his legs and his backpack, they were much larger on his original Armada action figure, and they hit each other all the time. And so, even though the original Armada Red Alert action figure had a decent amount of articulation compared to most of the other action figures in the Armada line, and it was hindered by his kibble and also his proportions. The original Armada Red Alert action figure, if you think, looking at his the front of his vehicle mode forming his robot chest, if you think this looks huge, look at a photo of the original Armada Red Alert action figure. His robot mode chest was twice the size. His head looked like it was too small for his body on the original action figure. If you think Red Alert's head looks tiny compared to his beefy chest on his Age of the Primes figure, the original Red Alert action figure, it's even more. The proportions of his alt mode are even more enormous. It almost looks like, if you look at the original Armada Red Alert action figure, it almost looks like his arms, legs, and his head, the parts of him that are blue, they were swapped. It looks like they were swapped out from another robot that was much smaller and swapped out with the head, arms, and legs of the eggs of a robot that transformed into the ambulance. So yeah, that was my perception of Red Alert, when I bought his Power Links action figure, and what I thought of photos of him. Photos of his original action figure was the proportions looked all off-putting, but I'm really glad the designers and the engineers at Takara Tomy and Hasbro were able to increase the size of Red Alert's arms, legs, and head, and reduce the size of his vehicle mode kibble to make him look more like his animation model from the Armada cartoon. Even though he is half the size of his original Voyager class Armada action figure, in terms of proportions and accuracy to his animation model from the Armada cartoon show, the Age of the Primes version of Armada Red Alert definitely has his OG action figure beat out in that regard. One thing that I do enjoy is that the back of his head is clear air plastic, and so bringing in my the flashlight on the back of my phone to show it off. As you can see, if you can get a decent enough light to shine through it. Red Alert does have some fantastic light piping to him. It's hard to get my phone onto the back of his head with how his backpack transforms, and there's no way of folding it down any farther. either, but if you've got a thin enough and small enough light to shine, either you can hover it over the back, over Red Alert's backpack and shine it through the back of his head. You can get some pretty fantastic light piping there, just like his original Armada action figure. And a rarity for Autobot Transformers characters, Armada Red Alert, even though he has a visor, to put it bluntly, he has red eyes. So yeah, Red Alert is the Armada version of Red Alert is one of the few Autobot characters from the entirety of the Transformers franchise in which he actually has red eyes instead of the traditional blue or yellow eyes that most Autobot Transformers characters have. Red eyes are typically given to Decepticons to show that they're evil, so Red Alert was given red eyes to show the fact that he's an ambulance with the Red Cross and he's a true medic. So yeah, that's just one thing to note about Red Alert. All the parts of him that are red are made out of clear plastic. The only parts that are red paint are the stripes on his vehicle mode, the Autobot logo on his chest, and the red crosses on his back. But the light bar for his sirens, his wrist-mounted, his wrist-mounted laser cannons, and the and it's all the other parts of him that are actually made out of red plastic. They're all clear, translucent red plastic, just like the light piping plastic used on the back of his head and his visor. So just be mindful that that is accurate to the original Armada version of Red Alert, and so it is kind of a shame that Hasbro and Takara Tomy decided to mimic accuracy by making Red Alert's all the red parts on Red Alert that are red plastic, clear plastic, just like his original Armada action figure. Even the windshield of his vehicle mode on Red Alert's original action figure, the windshield was attached on a spring that was actually, instead of being attached to the backpack, it was actually attached to the back of the windshield here on Red Alert's torso, so it actually hung off the back of him like this, so it's sitting the opposite direction and opposite angle compared to Red Alert's original Armada action figure. In terms of articulation, his head is on a ball joint, so he can look up that far, so hardly up at all. His head can rotate left and right, has the potential to spin 360 degrees in both directions. The ball joint itself is made out of the same dark charcoal gray plastic that the interior of Red Alert's torso is made of, but the socket that the ball joint is moving around in is the clear red plastic used for the light piping, so if you can avoid moving Red Alert's head around, I'd recommend actually doing that. The arms are attached to the torso at a universal joint on the shoulder, so the arms can go out this far, can move outward away from the torso up to 90 degrees. The arms can spin at the shoulder socket 360 degrees clockwise and counterclockwise. You have a swivel joint in the bicep. You have a double hinged elbow, which is accurate to Red Alert's original Armada action figure. The elbow has a double hinge joint due to how the arms have to the upper arms have to fold up into the and lower arms have to sandwich together to transform Red Alert into his alt mode. He has a wrist swivel on the with his right side, with his only hand on his right side arm. You can spin the tools he has in his left wrist if you wanted to as well. Because of the CGI render from Amazon.com when Red Alert's product photos were first showed him incorrectly having two hands, some Transformers fans and collectors were hoping that maybe Red Alert might have a second hand for another accessory piece, but since his original action figure didn't have it, Hasbro and Takara Tomy didn't give it to him. So for Transformers Armada fans out there who enjoy Red Alert and wondered if maybe perhaps his Age of the Primes action figure would be the first time in history that the Armada version of Red Alert would have two fists instead of just one. Nope, it's not going to happen, so missed opportunity. Just like his original Armada action figure, Red Alert does have a waist swivel, but you have to move his backpack out of the way in order for it to spin 360 degrees, ease left and right. Unlike his original Armada action figure, figure. The backpack here on the Age of the Primes figure can move all the way up here, so if you want to get a full movement of Red Alert's waist joint, well, you have the potential to do that. On the OG figure, the backpack barely made it up this far, and with the kibble on the sides of his legs hitting the sides of the backpack like that, the waist joint, even though it was there, it was rendered useless. And moving the backpack up again. Same thing with the legs. If you move the backpack out of the way, Red Alert's legs can go back this far. They can go forward this far. Or they can go out this far, so Red Alert can come close to doing a full split at his hips. Swivel joint at the thigh. Hinged elbows, which are a little stiff out of the box, and they do lock into place. Even if you have fingernails, the heel spurs can be a pain to flip out. There's some little notches on the back to help you flip them out if you have trouble, but yeah, that's one gripe I have with Red Alert is his heel spurs. He technically does have a hinge joint here in his shin end, which is for transformation, but it's technically not supposed to be a robot mode, a functional joint. Right, and it does lock into place very firmly, as you just heard that click. The feet are attached to the leg. The ankle joint is ratcheted, so anyone wanting to do a stop motion of Armada Red Alert running, unfortunately, the ratchet joints will make it hard to photograph that. And unlike his original Armada action figure, Red Alert has ankle rockers, so you can get him into a sprawl-legged pose if you desire. And for those wondering if Red Alert would look any better if his leg kibble was flipped around and facing the opposite direction, it doesn't spin 360 degrees, and so here's what they look like, flipped forward and backward. So just like his original action figure, the best way to pose the leg kibble is just having them sit off the back of his legs, just like his original action figure and his animation model from the Armada cartoon show. And yeah, pretty much overall a pretty decent amount of poses that Red Alert can do, much more or posing than his original action figure from the Armada line for sure. And for some size comparisons in robot mode, here is Age of the Primes Armada Red Alert next to Legacy Evolution Commander Class Armada Optimus Prime and Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Hotshot. So as I said, with the release of Red Alert, the trio of Autobots who was introduced at the beginning of the Transformers Armada cartoon show, they have now all been given modern Chug-style action figures. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this group shot, seeing the three of them standing together, moving Optimus Prime's arm out of the way so you can see Ratchet's face, since this video is about him. And here they all are. I have Optimus Prime in his fully combined robot mode, his super robot mode with his trailer. And yeah, these were the Autobots who originally were stopping the Decepticons from seizing control of the Minicons and ruling the universe with an iron fist, just in the Armada cartoon show. And yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing Optimus Prime, Red Alert, and Hotshot all standing here beside each other. Hopefully someday soon, people's collection of Armada Chug there. My mind's moving faster than my tongue. I apologize for that. What I was trying to get out is that hopefully someday soon the other Autobots from Transformers Armada will join Red Alert, Optimus Prime, and Hotshot, and Transformers fans and collectors, the Autobots from the Transformers Armada cartoon series that they have on their Chug shelves. These three will be joined by the other Autobots from Armada: Smokescreen, Scavenger, Blur, Jetfire, Sideswipe, Hoist, and Overload. Hopefully that'll happen someday sooner than later. But yeah, for now, a nice, fantastic trio. You here seeing Red Alert standing beside Optimus Prime and Hotshot. And so yeah, pretty nice that Red Alert has been able to join his teammates first. Some fans and collectors were worried that we might not get Red Alert until we got other Autobots from the Armada series after, but it is nice that with Red Alert's release, the original trio of Armada Autobots is now complete. Hopefully their fellow Autobots will join them soon. So let's hurry up and get Red Alert transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Red Alert transformed into his alt mode of an off-road ambulance vehicle, and yeah, I really enjoy how this turned out. I saw where some fans and collectors pointed out that on the original Armada Red Alert action figure, it's my bedroom lamp is my camera's blurring the light, but here's a good angle. These back intake vents here where windows would be on the back of his alt mode. This upper half here of Red Alert's alt mode, where you got these two rectangular sculpted parts here, which are I think they were supposed to be his taillights. They might have been additional sirens, but this entire upper area of Red Alert, right on the back of his alt mode, was dark gray, just like the sculpted detailing over his wheels. That was dark gray there, so having it all white here on the back, it looks very bland. It makes him look more like Ratchet than his original Armada action figure. I saw a photo someone took where they found some gunmetal gray paint, and they painted the back part of him gray, and that did make him look a lot more accurate to his original Armada action figure. So I kind of wish they would have just painted some of these parts, at least the intake vents. I wish they would have painted gray, just to break up the monotony of the white paint here on Red Alert's back. One nice thing that's new here is this panel section, which when you transform Red Alert, this was flipped up on the inside of his backpack. On his original Armada action figure, this part did not exist, and so you could actually see the back of Red Alert's legs, his legs and his robot mode feet. They made up the back of his alt mode when he was his action figure was transformed into alt mode. So the point I was trying to make is that the fact that the engineers, when they designed a brand new mold for Armada Red Alert, they managed to invent a way to have a gap piece that fills up the back of Red Alert's alternate mode. I am glad that they did that. That is one of the highlights of Armada Red Alert's his Age of the Primes action figure. Is that this gap filler is there on the back, so his feet don't just act as the back of his alt mode. So that is by far the best improvement compared to his original Armada action figure, is having this gap filler piece giving the bottom half of the back section of his alt mode an actual back section here. Armada fans, and I saw a couple of Armada fans years ago joke that Armada Red Alert didn't have a trunk door to the back of his alt mode, or a door to the back of his ambulance mode, since he's an ambulance, that he didn't have a door. So that's why Red Alert wasn't actually shown carrying any patients, because there was no door to keep them safely locked up from the site where they were injured to the point where Red Alert could take them to the hospital. So some fans joked that Red Alert was a non-functioning ambulance for his robot mode feet, doubling as the backside of his alt mode. So I'm really happy to see that there. I don't know off the top of my head, since I never played it, but I ate it, so I don't know if Red Alert was a playable character in the Transformers Armada video game for PlayStation 2, but with these 6 little sculpted struts here on the base of him, I think this might have been based off of, this took in some design cues from his from the PlayStation 2 video game, because in the PlayStation 2 video game, Hotshot had back vents like this for the backside of his alternate mode as well. So because of how Red Alert transforms, you could do it on his original Armada action figure, where you could open up the doors, and you could at least have the doors look like they were opening up and functioning here, similar to what Hotshot can do. So for a size comparison, well, I have him here. Here is Age of the Primes Red Alert next to Legacy Evolution Armada Hotshot. In alt mode, they're almost the same length. Red Alert definitely has twice the height of Hotshot, but he does compress when he transforms into his alt mode. Red Alert looks like a large deluxe vehicle, so since he's a Voyager class figure, he is in alt mode on the smaller side of Voyager class Transformers action figures, which is kind of a shame, because in the Armada line, Red Alert was arguably one of the largest, if not the largest, Voyager class figure from the Armada line. But I can't fault Hasbro and Takara Tomy for making him so small because of that. Now, I said that the back of Red Alert's alt mode looks really bland and without any of the gray paint that his original action figure had on the top half, but the reason why it's so bland looking is because of all the paint that was used on the front of Red Alert's alt mode. So yeah, this is all actually the entire front half of Red Alert's truck mode. It's the same white plastic that he's made of, and the fact that we get an Autobot logo right here on the hinge joint, and we got this part done up in blue paint. That's where Red Alert's head originally went down, and then the headlights are painted yellow on yellow. The headlights are a separate sculpted piece because the caution lights are clear red plastic. But then you've got the grille painted silver. You got charcoal gray for the frame of the headlights, and then the headlights themselves, along with Red Alert's front bumper section that has those same 6 stripe-shaped struts sculpted there on it. It's all silver paint as well. And then you got charcoal gray plastic here for the bottom of the bumper, which is the section where Red Alert's head stores in his robot mode. Oh, that is a lot of paint used on the front of Red Alert's vehicle mode out here, and then you've got the red stripe leading down here to the back. On Red Alert's original Armada action figure, these were Minicon ports right here, which are now 6mm ports on the doors of his alt mode. He does have the one Minicon port here on the back center section of the light bar siren here, and it is a functioning Minicon port, so if you have a copy of the original Armada Red Alert action figure, you can take Red Alert's original Minicon partner, Long Arm, who transformed into a crane. You can put him on the roof. You can put Long Arm on the roof of Red Alert's Age of the Prime's Red Alert's roof and mimic that gimmick of the Minicon riding on top of him. And it was Red Alert's Minicon partner, Long Arm. The gimmick with the Minicons that this Minicon port on the top of him, that is what would flip out the cannon for Red Alert to use when he was in his alt mode. It was attached. It would attach and reattach by a spring, so it was spring mounted. And as I said, on the original figure, you didn't have to remove the missile. There was enough clearance space on here that the missile could be stored inside. Right here, you can see right here this little lip where the roof is sculpted out. It went along and matched the length of the missile, so that's how the missile could be stored all the time on the original Armada Red Alert action figure. One minor nitpick is that because of all the paint that was used for Red Alert's front bumper, on his original Armada action figure, Red Alert had a neon green painted hubcaps on his wheels, but with the other parts on the original Armada Red Alert action figure that had the neon green paint, the other parts were the disc that would launch out of Red Alert's chest, and then the last piece that was neon green. It was actually neon green plastic, and it was his Minicon partner Long Arm's crane arm. So with Long Arm and the Minicons omitted, and the chest launching disc omitted as well. Hasbro and Takara Tomy omitted all the parts of Armada Red Alert that were neon green, including the paint on his hubcaps. So it is just a minor nitpick, but if they had gone the extra mile and painted the hubcaps neon green, I think that would have made Transformers Armada fans enjoy the figure a little bit more. And having paint on the back, and having the top back section here with the rear windows on Red Alert, having that painted charcoal gray, just like the wheel frames. If Armada Red Alert had even more paint apps than he does, I think that would have made collectors justify how small he becomes in his alt mode and the price that he went for, or when he was sold last year in 2025. Armada Red Alert has shelf-warmed in some parts of the United States and other parts of the world, but overall I think he is a pretty fantastic looking Transformers action figure. One of my personal fears was that Red Alert would be a repaint and a retool of a previously released action figure, maybe a previous action figure of Ratchet or Trailbreaker, which are the two characters that he is based on. Similar to how Hot Shot is a mashup of both Generation Bumblebee and Hot Rod, Red Alert is a mashup of both Ratchet and Trailbreaker. And between the personalities, the vehicle modes they have, and the paint jobs that they were given, that was one of the things with the characters from Transformers Armada, is that they were modern editions of two Transformers Generation 1 characters that were mashed together into one new one. Hotshot represented both Generation 1 Bumblebee and Hot Rod. Red Alert represented both Generation 1 Trailbreaker and Generation 1 Ratchet. And Armada Optimus Prime, who I apologize for not bringing out for an alt mode comparison, but where I have him in right now in my collection, I'm displaying him in robot mode. But Armada Optimus Prime was a mashup of both Generation 1 Optimus Prime and Generation 1 Star Convoy, who technically is Generation 1 Optimus Prime. I am upgraded into a new body design. And yeah, they were based off of mashups of past Transformers character. The Armada characters were mashups based on past Transformers characters. Megatron was a mashup of both Generation 1 and Generation 2 Megatron. On Generation 1 Megatron and his cold-hearted personality, and Generation 2 Megatron with his alt mode being a green military tank. And the standout character of the series was Starscream, since he acted more like Dinobot from Beast Wars than he did Generation 1 Starscream. But yeah, overall I'm really thrilled with how Red Alert came out, and whatever gripes I have with him, they're overshadowed by the sheer fact that we just got a brand new, his first Chug-style action figure is an entirely brand new mold. It's not a repaint or a retool. Oh, it's an original mold. A lot of fans and collectors of Armada, myself included, are hoping that just like we got with Hotshot, where we got him repainted into his Power Links paint job, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that Red Alert will be repainted into his Power Links paint job. Hotshot's Power Links paint job is based more off of Generation 1 Hot Rod, while Red Alert, his Power Links paint job is based off of a mostly orange beachside Coast Guard rescue vehicle, beachside rescue ambulance used for beach rescuing, rescue vehicles that are used along beaches near the coastline. They're painted bright orange because on most sandy beaches, bright orange is the color that stands out most compared to the yellowish, to the tannish yellowish white color of sand, the blue of the ocean and the sky, and the yellow of the sun. So yeah, whether or not we'll get Power Links Red Alert either as an exclusive like we got with Power Links Hotshot, or if we'll get him at all, is yet to be seen at this point. But I really hope, but if we do get Power Links repaint of Red Alert based on the paint job that he got out fighting the Armada version of Nemesis Prime, I would buy that in a heartbeat, since I have the original Armada Power Links version of Red Alert in my Transformers collection. So, for the final preview question, do I recommend getting Transformers Age of the Primes Red Alert and adding him to your Transformers collection? I do. You cannot go wrong having this version of Red Alert in your Transformers collection. And if you don't, and as a standalone action figure and Transformers character, just like Hotshot from Transformers Armada, I personally like to display Red Alert with my Generation 1 Transformers characters, and the fact that he shares his name with Generation 1 Red Alert, you can rename him if you want, thanks to freedom of speech. I believe Red Alert was called Ratchet when he was released in the Micron Legends line, but Hasbro was more desperate to hold on to, but since Hasbro still actually had Red Alert's registered trademark name in 2002, and they had already lost the trademark name to Ratchet in 2002, rather than try and get Ratchet's back, they held on to Red Alert's trademark for a while longer by naming the Armada Autobot Medic Red Alert instead of Ratchet. But yeah, I will most likely display him with my Generation 1 Transformers characters like I do with Hotshot. So I highly recommend getting this figure if you can. He is slightly small in all-in vehicle mode compared to other Voyager class Transformers figures, but this is far greater than I ever anticipated a Chug-style action figure of the Armada version of Red Alert would ever be. And despite not including his Minicon partner, I still love how he turned out. And one thing I will say about his wheels, even though they are not the hubcaps are not painted, they are accurate to the design of the wheels that his original Armada action figure had. And even though Hasbro can't use the red crosses on Transformers that turn into ambulances anymore, thanks to the American Red Cross having a trademark on that image. I still enjoy the new stylized Transformers Red Cross symbol with the Autobot logo inside a six-pointed Red Cross. So yeah, I highly recommend getting the Age of the Primes version of Armada Red Alert if you can find him at a decent price. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFA. This has been my review of Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class Armada Red Alert. I highly recommend getting this figure if you can. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, there is no age limit to buying and collecting as long as you enjoy collecting. It's a lifelong hobby. And so until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.